Hey friends, welcome back to Johnny Food and My Kitchen. It is safe to say that fall has arrived. The leaves are changing and the nights are getting chillier. It is time to pull out those pots and those good old-fashioned soup recipes. And that is just what I am doing today. Based on your comments on my hamburger soup video, which I will link in the description box, you have told me that you love those old school soup recipes. So I'm pulling out another one. This time it's cheeseburger soup. It's creamy and cheesy and full of potatoes and comforting vegetables, and it will warm your soul, not just your body. So let's make this. Let's talk ingredients for this cheeseburger soup. I've got 1 pound of Kirkland organic ground beef. Now that's a little bit more than a pound, but that's okay. And then we are gonna make 3 cups of chicken stock with our better than bouillon. We are gonna cut 1 cup of chopped carrots, 1 cup of diced onion, and a cup of diced celery. We've got 4 tablespoons of butter. And I have 1/4 of a cup of a gluten-free thickening that I make. This one is actually half gluten-free flour and half cornstarch. I just find that either cornstarch or arrowroot powder tend to help thicken that flour just a little bit more. But absolutely, if you don't need this to be gluten-free, just use 1/4 cup of regular all-purpose flour. And then we have 2 cups of shredded cheese, 1.5 cups of regular milk. Now I'm going to need 4 cups of chopped potatoes. Probably what I will do is just fill my 4-cup thing up with chopped potatoes, and then a teaspoon of basil, a teaspoon of parsley, salt and pepper, and that is it. And that is going to make a wonderfully comforting cheeseburger soup. So let's get started. First of all, I'm just going to go ahead and chop this onion up. Now we are looking for 1 cup each of the onion, the carrots, and the celery. Although if you like it a little chunkier, then just by all means do what you like. Let me see. That looks like about 1 cup right there. All right, and that is just a little bit more than 1 cup. I guess I will save the rest of this onion for another recipe. So now we've got our carrots. We're just gonna trim the ends off of these, and really and truly, however you like your carrots cut is fine. You can cut them into little coins, which is what I think I'm just gonna do today. I'm not gonna dice them or anything. I'm just gonna leave them. And these carrots aren't very big, so I think just the thin slices will be fine. And it'll help it kind of feel old-fashioned. Everybody in this house likes cooked carrots, so we're good. All right, that is a good cup of carrots. I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna finish chopping. I hate to waste, so I am gonna finish this, just this little bit of carrot here. And then let's do our celery. Now, I don't think I'm going to use all of this, but I want to make sure and use the leaves. And I've talked about that in previous videos. The leaves in the middle of the celery stalk, they impart good flavor to your soups. So I always like to chop mine right in. This is just the very last middle part of some celery that I have. This is like the last of the celery that I could use. So I'm going to go ahead and chop probably half of this up. That is definitely at least 1 cup. That's definitely enough vegetables. All right, friends. Lastly, we are going to chop our potatoes, and I'm using Yukon Golds mostly because I don't have to peel them if I use them. And I'm just going to do kind of, bite-sized pieces. And we just need 4 cups of those. Now, you could also use russets in this if you like, and just peel them. I just really like that buttery flavor of Yukon Golds. I think they're my favorite potato, honestly. Redskins would work good. And again, I'm just going to fill this 4-cup jar So we won't need quite all of these potatoes, but we've got our 4 cups of potatoes, so let's take this back to the stove. All right, we've got our Dutch oven ready with our burger. I'm just going to go ahead and add all of those vegetables to the hamburger. Let that kind of cook on the bottom for just a few minutes, and then we'll mix those in and let those cook together. All right, our meat is starting to get browned, so I'm just going to go ahead and mix that in with the vegetables, and that'll continue to cook both of those down. So I am going to add our 4 tablespoons of butter, and that will just help with the meat. And then I'm going to add our seasonings while that's cooking. So we are looking for 1 teaspoon of parsley. And of course I'm using my hand measurements. And 1 teaspoon of basil. You could substitute anything you want in this. All right, our meat is browned, so I'm going to go ahead and add. Now, you could either do what I'm doing and add water with bouillon, or you could add 3 cups of chicken stock. I've got 3 cups there, and then I'm adding kind of like a heaping tablespoon of the better than bouillon right in there. And we will mix that around. And then we're going to add our 4 cups of potatoes. And see if I can just get those covered. All right, I am going to let that come up to a boil, and then I'm going to cover this and let that cook for about 20 minutes. All right, our 20 minutes is up, and as you can see, our potatoes are cooked and they are nice and soft. So now we are just going to finish this cheeseburger soup. First of all, I added that 1/4 cup thickening mixture to my glass measuring bowl. And I am just going to kind of whiz that into this milk with a whisk. And then we are going to go ahead and dump that right into our soup. And I will give that a mix. And that should help to thicken up. Of course, if you are using regular flour, add your regular flour at that point. And then we are going to go in with our 2 cups of shredded cheese that I shredded earlier. It's kind of sticking into my measuring cup here. There we go. And we'll just kind of mix that in and stir as it melts. And the last thing we need to do, once that all comes together and melts, is we just need to add our salt and our pepper. That is so easy. And friends, you can add less meat if you want to. You can add more potatoes. I mean, you can add more broth. You can double or triple this recipe. I have made this for youth group events. I've made it for church events. I've made it at school events. I've done this for community soup suppers. I've done the soup all over, and every time I make it, people ask me for the recipe. It is a good one. All right, I'm just going to start by adding about a teaspoon or so of salt right in there. And then I will add in a few black peppers around the pot. We will mix that in and give it a taste. But our cheeseburger soup is essentially done. All right, friends, our cheeseburger soup is completely finished. That took less than an hour to put that nice pot of soup, and this would easily feed like 6 to 8 people. You could, wow, that's still pretty steamy. You could add, like I said, more potatoes, less hamburger, more hamburger. You could double, triple. I mean, I have done this. You can add Velveeta instead of shredded cheddar if you prefer that. I mean, you can do a lot of different things. You can add garlic. I don't add garlic to this, but you certainly could. And to top this off, you could add green onions or regular onions, or you could add chopped dill pickles. That would be delicious. And serve it alongside cornbread or some rolls or just some good old bread and butter. Let's go ahead and give this a taste. It looks delicious. Nobody is going to be sad in my house tonight for dinner. You could even add some sour cream if you wanted just a little bit of extra creaminess to this. All right, I am going to get a bite of potato and hamburger and one of these carrots. All right, that looks so good. Cheeseburger soup. That is hearty and comforting and warm. I promise you, this makes a delicious dinner on a chilly night. Thank you so much for watching, friends. We'll see you soon. Bye for now. Let's go top.